Okay, good afternoon, judges. This is the ninth presenter. Presenter, yes. Okay, okay. Fatih, Abdur.
Yeah.
As mentioned before in the briefing, you will have 10 minutes for the presentation, and after that, we will continue with the question and answer session for about 15 minutes. But if in the presentation you still need more time, you can have another minute agreed by the judges.
Okay.
Is that clear? I will remind when 5 minutes left and 1 minute left.
Okay.
Okay, you may start your presentation.
Good afternoon, honorable judges and Al-Fatih Ibdal. And today I will be presenting about the embodiment of Mitra Bahari in accordance with Sustainable Development Goals, number 14, regarding conserving maritime ecosystem and resources, about specifically the acceleration strategy on strengthening the integrated management of coastal and small island areas. Before I start the presentation, I will present the outline of my creative idea. It will be divided into 3 chapters. The first one is the scope of discussion. The second one is the development target formulation analysis, in which we will talk about the goals and the timeline of the work plan. And finally, in the third chapter, we will talk about possible methods on attain the targets, in which we will analyze which are the most probable and the most applicable target to attain the outcome of this paper. And also there will be some terms used in this paper or in this presentation. I will refer to wilayah pesisir dan pulau kecil as coastal zones, and I will refer to pengelolaan wilayah pesisir dan pulau kecil as coastal management, in which there will be 2 main laws that will be often speak in this presentation. The first one is the Coastal Zone Law 2017 and its revision in 2014. I will also use the term PermenKP, which stands for Peraturan Menteri Kelautan, and KKP, which stands for Kementerian Kelautan dan Perikanan. The first is that I will talk about the first outline, the scope of discussion, and also the problems identification. We know that the scope of this discussion, of this creative idea, is the coastal and small island zones of Indonesia, in which that automatically the benefit receiver will be people of Indonesia who reside in those areas. The reason why I choose this topic and scope is that the utilization of natural resources in Indonesia is not yet optimal. And secondly, the people of coastal zones areas are around 7 million people, and they rely every day on natural resources in those areas. So there are 17,000 islands, second longest coastline in the world, 7 million people reside in all of those areas, and there are 4,000 trillion rupiahs economic advantage yearly in these areas, but they are not yet optimally managed, in which that in this paper, I will talk about the potency and also the needs. The first one is that the ICZM, or the Integrated Coastal Zone Management Approach in Indonesia, is the most accurate approach to set forth in SDG number 14. However, the implementation of such ICZM is not yet optimal. And there are also some needs in this paper that we'll be talking about. The first one is to have an embodiment of Mitra Bahari, which is a currently existing framework of program from the Ministry of Fisheries and Maritime Affairs, but they are not executing their programs properly according to ICZM. The purpose of this paper is to explain the potentials and, of course, to elaborate concrete steps in formulating those guidelines. And secondly, the benefit for the stakeholders in the coastal areas will be having an integrated and strengthened platform. The method used in this paper will be normative theoretical method, in which I will trace relevant regulations and also literatures that are needed. So the limits of these areas are defined in the 2014 law on coastal management. So there will be no other definitions other than from this law. So the main theory that will be used in this creative idea is ICZM is in SDG 14, which is the strategy on executing coastal zone management in Indonesia through decentralization and also the capacity building of stakeholders of coastal zone areas. So the topic is that what is Mitra Bahari? Mitra Bahari is a network of stakeholders in coastal management field that strengthens anything related to coastal zones. It is also further regulated in PermenKP number 14 2019 regarding Mitra Bahari. And the stakeholders of Mitra Bahari is regulated in Article 4, Paragraph 1, which includes central and local government, universities, NGOs, professional bodies, public figures, or society's representatives, and also private sectors. So what are the problems in this paper that I would like to propose? the fact that Mitra Bahari, the provision of Mitra Bahari is not changed. None of them is changed. However, the concept of coordination in coastal zone areas is changed from 2007, sorry, to 2014. In 2007, the concept of management is not coordinated. There are planning, utilization, supervision, and also control, but these steps of planning and etc. are separated. In the 2014 law, they are coordinated so that it includes all aspects of management. And then also the problem identification is that the current Mitra Bahari regulation in 2009 still uses the concept of uncoordinated concept in the 2007 law. And the second problem is that they don't have any single technical guidelines to select what kind of stakeholders that can be a partner in Mitra Bahari, which will be the focus of my problem today. And the core issues will be that it should be aligned, but it is not aligned yet. And there should be guidelines, but there were no guidelines yet. So the problem of this paper will be focused on the ICZM in SDG 14. I used the theory promoted by Newman in 2017. He promoted 4 possible guidelines or frameworks, but we know that in Indonesia, these 4 are not all applicable. So we have to choose one, which will be elaborated further in outline 3 regarding analysis on methods of targets attainment. So the second outline is development goals analysis. What kind of goals that we want to propose in this paper? We know that the potential resources in these coastal areas won't be managed properly if there is no synchronization among its regulation. Secondly, we also understand that the status quo right now, there are no effectivity evaluation over the stakeholders and their activity in Mitra Bahari. Therefore, this paper would like to see a result in which synchronization exists and also guidelines of technical formulation also presented. So we need to have SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, acceptable, realistic, and also time-bound. The first one is specific. How is my idea specific? It is specific because it's targeted mainly specifically to objectify a coordinated coastal zone management that is in accordance with ICZM and also SDG 14, and also the current effective law, which is the 2014 Coastal Management Law. The second one is measurable.
5 more minutes.
Okay. The second one is measurable because these development goals are meant to be fulfilled if the following measures are met. The first one is that there will be an updated PermenKP Mitra Bahari. The second one that will be technical guidelines that will be put forth as an attachment towards that PermenKP. The third one is acceptable. Development goals that I'm proposing are acceptable because it is in line with the customs of people residing in coastal zone areas. According to Bengen in 2002, they are relying daily on coastal zone resources. Therefore, mutual cooperation in doing so is also embodied in these ICZM approach in the 2014 law. So there will be no contradiction whatsoever in proposing these development goals. The next one is realistic. It is realistic because the framework of Mitra Bahari is already there, but what we have to do is to improve that framework so that it meets the current law that regulates all kinds of coastal management. The next one is time-bound. It needs to be limited by time. The target needs to be executed by time, and I am proposing a 2-year time-bound, which detail as follows. The first year will be for the formulation of technical guidelines internally by Mitra Bahari itself before Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries promote an updated PermenKP, which will be in the form of an attachment. So the PermenKP will have an attachment from the outcome of the discussion of the previous Mitra Bahari formulation, and then it will take approximately 1 year for the PermenKP to be issued by the ministry, which also lets us to what kind of method that we have to use to attain this target of SMART goals. So previously we know that Newman proposes 4, but of all these 4, only one checks all 3 types of categories that I put in my paper. And that goal is the guideline of formulating globally accredited objectives or best practices that are visible around the world. They're visible because they already have the changes. They already have the changes. The only thing that we need is the changes to the PermenKP. The second one is that they already have the legal basis on figure 1 on the explanation of the 2014 law. And also the people's role. The people's role are legally regulated in PermenKP number 14, 2014 regarding people's role in coastal zone management. So the creative idea is that in the first phase, from May to June, it will be the formulation of technical guidelines existing from the meeting of Mitra Bahari. So there will be no cooperation from KKP first. The second one is where KKP program is taking into participation. There will be an issuance of an updated PermenKP, and then the third phase will be MRV, or monitoring, reporting, and verification. But these MRV will be divided into two phases. The first phase will be conducted in the first year of issuance, which will be carried out by the ministry. And the second one will be what I call as self-MRV, which will be done by Mitra Bahari Pusat and Daerah. And Mitra Bahari Daerah is consisting of two Mitra Bahari Provinsi and also Kabupaten or Regency. So the visualization of this idea is that first, we will issue and technical guidelines which provide what kind of stakeholders that are eligible, what kind of activities that are implementable, and also what kind of evaluation that we want to have from these kind of guidelines. The second one, these guidelines will be made into an attachment, annex, or lampiran in the PermenKP, because in the current PermenKP, they only regulate everything that is not technical. They only regulate who is who without actually regulating what is what. The third one is MRV and self-MRV, as I mentioned before. It will be conducted by the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, and then the second year after that, it will be conducted by Mitra Bahari themselves. So the summary of today's presentation is that the creative idea that I'm proposing will have to have an outcome where every regulation regarding PermenKP will be synchronized according to the current 2014 Coastal Management Law, and also according to the ICZM that is constituted in SDG number 14. And also using the main theory of Newman regarding formulation of globally accredited objective, which will be done through methods that I have formulated before, that there will be technical guidelines or regulated to do so. The second one, that there will be an issuance of PermenKP ministry regulation that will be an underlying source of law for all activities regarding Mitra Bahari. And the last one will be the MRV, or self-evaluation by Mitra Bahari and the second year, and by Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the first year, before finally being handled into
One more minute.
So these are the references that I use. Mainly I use literatures and also regulations, but mainly the main theory that I'm proposing is from Newman, an expert in coastal zone management. The concept of strong sustainability is proposed by him. That will be all regarding my presentation. Thank you very much for having listened, and I'm looking forward for the question.
Okay, thank you, Abdur. Okay, judges, now we continue to the question and answer session. Any question from the judges? Okay, from Mbak Weni first, then Mbak Tirta ya. Yeah.
Abdur.
Yeah, Mbak.
Abdur. Okay. What's the purpose of Mitra Bahari? First question. Second question.
Okay.
I wonder whether the regulation already set up I don't know, the rights and obligation of Mitra Bahari clearly, or it's still unclear. And then, okay, just two first.
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Weni, for the question. So regarding the purpose of Mitra Bahari has four purposes. The first one is education and training. The second one is socialization upon the management of coastal zone. The third one is for applied research to be conducted. And lastly, it is also the main function is as policy recommendation for the government. So anything related to coastal zone management, it will be discussed by Mitra Bahari first before having been changed into a recommendation for the government. That will be for the first question. The second question will be the law regarding Mitra Bahari. So the current law regarding Mitra Bahari is that the 2014 law does not specify any revision regarding the 2019 ministry regulation, but the spirit of management is already changed, and it should also be automatically changed to how Mitra Bahari is conducted. That's why the purpose of my paper is to synchronize the spirit of management so that both laws will go hand in hand and in line with all the best practices in the world. That will be the answer for the second question.
Dan response ya, Mbak Weni.
Yeah, who is the, is it institution or person that can be called or can be defined as Mitra Bahari?
Okay, so thank you, Mbak Weni, for the question. So Mitra Bahari is a network in which it consists of members. The members are regulated in Article 4, Paragraph 1 in the 2019 regulation, which includes central and local government, colleges, NGOs, profession bodies, public figures, and also private sectors. So Mitra Bahari is a network of all these stakeholders, people who have interest in coastal zone management, and the members are included in these regulation.
So this is quite a fast spread of combination institutions, right?
Yes.
Why do you think to set up technical guidelines is a good thing? Because I see this is a very different institution with different mechanism and work style. I mean, it's gotta be they must be have a different guidelines on how to do their work on certain issues. I mean, if we're talking about fisheries between universities and government, it could be different when we're talking about the law of the people in the coastal area with the government. I mean, there's a different work style, right?
Okay.
What kind of technical guidelines you have in mind for all of those institutions?
Okay. Thank you, Mbawini, for the follow-up question. So the guideline that I'm proposing in this paper is not a guideline that will be specifically meant for each member of Mitra Bahari. The guidelines that I'm proposing is regarding the selection upon which who can be a partner in Mitra Bahari, which university, which NGO, on which private sector. Each member of Mitra Bahari will follow the guidelines of the internal guidelines that they have already made. They have already made. But the guideline that I'm proposing is regarding the specification in which that it will basically be a selection upon which, and also regarding the evaluation, whether in the period of say 1 year, are they doing all right? Are they doing fine regarding what they thought they want to do? And that will be the exactly guidelines that I'm about to propose in paper. So it's not about for each member of Mitra Bahari.
But it's if you're talking like that, it means it's useful for the evaluation, but not on the recruitment. I mean, why you limit the contribution of every possible institution exists in Indonesia to join the Mitra Bahari if you limit with technical guidelines?
Okay, thank you, Mbawani, for the follow-up question. So I see it more properly for us to specify the recruitment and also the evaluation, because first, there are no such regulation, and secondly, the management of coastal resources in coastal zones are not optimum yet. And I see it not because of the number of Mitra Bahari members who are already in there, but I see it upon the effectivity of their activities. So even though Mitra Bahari has 4 main purposes, sometimes they only do 1 or 2 main purposes, such as only the education part or only the training part, but they are not making it properly as a policy recommendation function. So I want to make sure that those who are included in Mitra Bahari are merit-based and also selected properly by the Mitra Bahari and also the Ministry of Maritime Affairs themselves. That will be my answer to
Okay,
your.
that kind of problems have you identified it as a problem for the requirements phase? I mean that they don't have the capabilities, but they did the project or did the job with the government. I mean, have you had any data regarding that? I mean, do you have already have a certain information that it's because they're incapable to do that?
Okay, so in making this paper, I had an interview with one of experts named Bono Budi Priambodo. So I talked with Mr. Bono, and he
Not
says
from the
that
government.
from the government. Okay, so from the government itself is that the ministry regulation on Mitra Bahari, they don't specify any technical regulation. So for example, in Peraturan Dirjen, they don't have any all of that. But compared to another program in KKP, they have a program that regulates people in coastal zone areas, but only for the people, not with other stakeholders. And they have these technical guidelines on how to conduct membership and all of that. But in Mitra Bahari, which actually possesses a wider responsibility, they don't have any guideline whatsoever. And whenever I search in any search engine regarding Mitra Bahari, they don't have any websites or they don't have any accounts in which we can study their data. So my only source is only the regulation, which only stops from the ministry regulation, which therefore the need of having a guidelines will be very valuable regarding the management of coastal zone using Mitra Bahari. Apart from that, the government they don't have any data regarding Mitra Bahari. I tried to search it, but they only have budgets with the Mitra Bahari, which to me is also not relevant to the purpose of my paper, which is not to collect data regarding that.
So there's no valid information regarding the incapabilities of those stakeholders then.
There are no valid information. Yes.
Okay, which institution has the authority to oversee this kind of Mitra Bahari?
Okay, so in the 2009 Ministry regulation, in Mitra Bahari Provinsi and Mitra Bahari Kabupaten Kota, that Mitra Bahari is coordinated with the leader having from representative from university. So each university will handle Mitra Bahari in its own jurisdiction. But when it comes to Mitra Bahari Pusat or the Central Mitra Bahari, it will be coordinated under Dirjen Pengelolaan Ruang Pengelolaan Laut, Dirjen RPL9. And then from that coordination, I don't see any coordination internally. They only conduct cooperation, but each Mitra Bahari do not possess any kind of evaluation process whatsoever, in which I see it as a problem. So that will be the formulation of the idea of having this paper.
Okay, short question. So the ministry basically doesn't have any authority to oversee the provincial Mitra Bahari.
No, they only conduct Mitra Bahari. Anyone who wants to be a Mitra Bahari can go to the ministry, but after that, there are no any kind of process that evaluate their competency or their performance in doing a Mitra Bahari activities.
Okay, please pinpoint that in your research paper, okay?
All right, terima kasih, Mbak Wen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mbak Tirta?
Okay, well, actually, almost all my questions have been conveyed by Mbak Weni.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I do have some maybe follow-up questions.
Okay.
First of all is about the purpose of Mitra Bahari. You said it's for research, blah blah blah.
Okay.
Okay, but then what is the philosophical reason of even constructing or having a Mitra Bahari in the first place?
Okay. So we know that the reason why the coastal zone, thank you for the question previously. The reason why the management on coastal zone law is revised in 2007 to 2014 is the fact that they are not coordinated. So Mitra Bahari in the previous place, they are acting as a as a figure under Ministry of Maritime Affairs as the one who helped the government formulate policy recommendation. So every time the ministry wants to have a regulation, they consult or they have this kind of report from Mitra Bahari before taking into account any kinds of regulations that have something to do with coastal zone management. Therefore, apart from the four main functions of Mitra Bahari, the basic philosophy of Mitra Bahari is to be the policy recommender to the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, because they contain not only from the local people, but also other stakeholders that reside in the area and have interest in coastal zone management. So that would be the answer to the question.
Okay, but the ministry don't have that authority to to oblige this Mitra Bahari to submit report.
Okay, so thank you for the follow-up question. So regarding the report from Mitra Bahari to the ministry, of course, it is already there. But the kind of report is not taken into account seriously because it will only be in a matter of formalities regarding the ministry regulation. And why can I say that? Because the only regulation apart from the coastal zone law number 2014 is only the ministry regulation in Mitra Bahari. There are no peraturan Direktur Jenderal. There are no other kinds of regulation under the regulations in KKP. So it's becoming a problem, and therefore it's becoming a formality in which it needs to be updated regarding the relevant law that is currently applicable today.
But you think it is important to have Mitra Bahari?
I really think it is important to have Mitra Bahari because as the second longest coastline in the world, Indonesia has 7 million people living in those areas, but they only rely on local government when it comes to increasing their welfare. Therefore, Mitra Bahari acts as a checks and balances regarding the management of coastal zone areas so that there will be recommendations coming from both the local government and also from the Mitra Bahari itself, which includes other members that are valuable to the management of coastal areas. That would be my question for the answer.
And therefore, it is important to have a guideline for choosing who will be part of Mitra Bahari?
Yes, it's important, but most importantly, it's also significant to have an exact list of which members are competently selected as Mitra Bahari, because it will also be valuable regarding the management of coastal zone area itself.
So what happened if like one member or members of the Mitra Bahari don't act or conduct as expected?
Okay, so that's actually the problem that I'm trying to solve, because if one member of Mitra Bahari does not do their activities properly, there are no kind of mechanisms to resolve that issue. So in these guidelines, technical guidelines that will be an attachment, I'm proposing a recruitment process and also an evaluation process, which will involve both Ministry of Maritime Affairs and also involve the Mitra Bahari from central and also local Mitra Bahari. That will be the issue that I'm trying to solve in this paper.
Yes, I also hope you incorporate authority power for Mitra Bahari to be heard by the government, because it's no use if you have that guidelines for the Mitra Bahari, but it's still not being heard by the government.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, for me, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Tirta. Judges, we still have 2 more minutes if you have any question. Okay, Ibu Fuli, you may have your question. Unmute it.
Okay. Okay, Abdur.
Hello, Bu.
Can you explain what the legal entity may be using for Mitra Bahari? Like a koperasi maybe, or something, or it's just a platform, or can you explain to me?
Okay. So thank you, Bu Fuli, for the question. So regarding Mitra Bahari itself, we understand that it is a network of stakeholders. But regarding the legal entity of what Mitra Bahari is all about, we can refer to the 2009 Ministry regulation. It is said that Mitra Bahari is a forum of cooperation among the stakeholders. So it is not in a form of an entity that is legally recognized. It is actually a form of forum in which that it has to be strengthened regarding the technical step that I've already proposed in my paper. So it's only a form of cooperation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mbak Iva, maybe? Mbak Iva? Is it disconnected? Marian, okay, you may have your question.
Yeah, I don't have question, but I just want to continue Weni question before about the supervision of Mitra Bahari. I just suggest you that maybe still need ethic boards, ethic council, or others kind of board that supervision, especially for the ethics. This need to supervise the individual from Mitra Bahari member, and this is a part of the selection mechanism and termination term for members of Mitra Bahari. So you can maybe include it in your paper about especially in technical regulation that you state in your paper. Yeah, just it. Thank you, Mbak Ibu.
Thank you for the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
Haris, okay, last one ya, Haris.
Okay. Thank you, Abdur. I only have one question. As you mentioned before, that the Mitra Bahari is giving a recommendation or as a consultant to the government to give us such recommendation. But I'd like to know how much impact can be given by the Mitra Bahari to maximize the potential of the PWP3K itself. That's it. Thank you, Abdur.
Okay. Thank you, Haris, for the question. So if we talk about the impactful influence of Mitra Bahari to the government as a policy recommendation, then I have to say from personal perspective, it is the most significant influence that any kind of cooperation firm has ever had. Because the concept of Mitra Bahari is not known in any other areas. Let's say in villages, they don't have a network of stakeholders that help recommend policy to the government, or perhaps in the area of forest, they don't have any kind of these kind of cooperation forums. So in terms of effectivity and also significant change, Mitra Bahari is the one that has to be improved. However, practically speaking, Mitra Bahari is not yet strengthened, as I have elucidated in my paper previously, because they don't have a legal basis that is already synchronized with current coordinated management, in which that I hope the significant power that Mitra Bahari has can be sustainably empowered in the future by having these kind of regulations synchronized. That would be my question to you, Haris.
Okay, thank you, Abdul.
Okay.
Okay. No more question for the judges, and the time is already almost up also. So Abdur, you may have your final or closing statement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all honorable judges and moderator. In this paper, I would like to outline the importance of cooperation and also partnership, because we cannot achieve even one single goal if we only rely on ourselves. The concept of coordination in coastal management is one example of how important having all stakeholders involved in a cooperation forum. Mitra Bahari acts as an action and also an action doer on how this kind of management is going to be implemented. However, the concept of strengthening Mitra Bahari is not yet well known in many literatures. Therefore, in this paper, I'm going to promote Mitra Bahari as a powerful influence in the coastal management, especially in Indonesia, as we are the second longest coastline in the world and also having 17,500 plus islands all over Indonesia. My paper will be able to solve this kind of issue by focusing on SDG number 14, conserving maritime resources. That will be all. Thank you very much and good afternoon for all honorable judges and moderators.
Okay, thank you for Abdur Rahman and all the judges. That
You're
will
welcome.
be the end of the presentation. Next one will be the last one, and will be hosted by the new host. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak semua.
Mbak
Thank you,
Ibu.
Abdul.